Hi, Teacher Linda here from Nature Nurture, online until we meet again outdoors. Well, today I'm in Golden Gate Park and I'd love to tell you a Groundo story. Are you ready? Great, settle down, settle in. We're going for a Groundo ride. Take a deep breath. Once upon a time, there was a child named G for Groundo, and he got into a lot of the letter T for trouble, indeed. One day, he was out in nature with his friends, and his mom and his dad, and his big brother Rocco, and his little sister Daisy. And they were all playing in this beautiful, wide open field. And there were so many flowers. And there was even some gopher mounds. And Rocco knew about gopher mounds. And he knew that when you see a gopher mound, it's usually, lots of times it's dark brown dirt. And it's oftentimes crumbly. And that means that the gopher might still be using it. He might have just come out of it recently or gone back into it. So Rocco knew good character choice is to step over or around the gopher house. But Groundo did not do that. What Groundo did was he came upon a gopher house, a little mound. It is their house, kind of the door to their house. And he was just about to step on it, and they heard doodle-loop, doodle-loop. Who's coming? Oh my dear, it's Groundo's 5 friends with silly names. Oh my dear, do you remember their names? You tell them with me, okay? Stinky, Pinky, Winky, Blinky, and of course, Chicken. And they said, Groundo, oh my dear, what in the world are you about to do? And Groundo said, look at this big pile of dirt. I'm going to crush it and make it flat. Wouldn't that be so much fun to see? And they said, well, Groundo, do you realize that when you see a mound of dirt, just like that one, and it's a little bit like dark brown dirt and crumbly on the top, that means it's a gopher's house. And Groundo said, oh, gopher schmofer. What? Oh my dear. Oh, what are we gonna do with this boy? Anyway, Stinky said, well, Groundo, I don't think that's a good choice. And Groundo said, why not? And Pinky said, well, Groundo, that's the gopher's house. And if you step on it, he might even be starting to come out, and then you'll smush on his head. Ow, owie kazowie. And Groundo said, that can't happen. Animals don't live in the ground. What? Of course they do. Can you name some animals that live under the ground? I can think of a few. The first one that comes to my mind is a worm. Worms definitely love to be in the dirt, of course, right? And gophers live in the dirt, under the ground. What else lives under the ground? Can you think of anything? Well, in any case, finally, Groundo realized that maybe his friends were right this time. They've been right many, many times when they tried to help him learn about having good character. And this was definitely one of those times. So instead of stepping on the gopher's house, do you know what they did? They sat down and they waited and waited and waited. And it didn't take long, but what happened was, all of a sudden, the dirt started shifting and shaking. And they thought, oh, is it an earthquake? No. Is it, I don't know, what could it be? Oh my dear, gopher. That's right, it's a gopher coming up out of his hole. So they were like, shh, 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 be quiet. And they watched and watched and watched. And what happened was all of a sudden the dirt parted and the little gopher came up out of the dirt. And they saw the gopher, they saw his little head and his little paws and his little teeth. They have little buck teeth like that. And the gopher was like looking around. But you know what? He felt safe because no one was coming near his house. They were just next to it. So it didn't really bother him much. And so Groundo and his 5 friends with silly names were waiting and watching. And it was so cool. Have you ever seen a gopher come out of his house? It's one of the coolest things ever. And so they watched, and he scurried out of the house, out of his little hole, and he did not go very far. His whole body didn't even come out, but he scooted along just a little bit, and he found some leaves. And he jumped on the leaves, and he ate them. And Groundo and all of his 5 friends with silly names, they watched him do the whole thing. What? They did. And he ate it. Chomp. And then they thought, oh my gosh, is he going to eat more? Should we? Groundo said, oh, I know, let's feed him. I have some goldfish. Blinky said, no, please don't feed him goldfish. He's a wild animal. And what do wild animals eat? Wild food. They eat the food, the nature that's out in the wild. So Groundo said, oh, wild schmild, it would be fine. And they said, no, Groundo, it could make him sick. And so then Groundo said, okay, I'll just watch him eat. And that's what they did for the rest of the morning. They watched the gopher eat all of the grass and all of the leaves. And then when he was done, he went back down into his little hole, into his house. And then his hole was still open, but all of a sudden they saw the earth, the dirt, moving again, like shaking. And it was like getting a pile. And all of a sudden they realized that the gopher was pushing the dirt up from under the ground to cover the hole again. What? He covered the hole from under the ground. That's really wild. Gophers are really smart. And so they had watched the whole morning, and Groundo chose really good character. And his friends were so proud of him. And even Groundo was proud of himself. He said, I made a good choice today. And they said, you sure did, Groundo. The end. Well, Teacher Linda signing off. Online until we meet again outdoors.